Have you ever met someone who made time stop, like the universe paused just for the two of you? What if I told you that connection wasn't random? That there are people cosmically designed to unlock something buried deep inside you, something you didn't even know was asleep? But here's the catch. Most people miss it. They walk right past the person who was meant to change everything. Because the one destined for you won't just make you feel good, they'll make you face yourself. And if you're not ready, that moment might pass you by, forever. In the vast ocean of human experience, there are a few encounters that don't feel like meetings at all. They feel like remembering. A glance, a word, a presence, and suddenly something ancient within you wakes up. Carl Jung called this synchronicity, the meaningful collision between your inner world and the outer universe. When you're ready to grow, evolve, and face your truth, the universe sends someone to help you do just that. But this isn't the kind of help that keeps you safe. It's the kind that shakes you, that forces you to confront everything you've avoided. That person, that's your soulmate. They don't complete you. They awaken you. They don't rescue you. They reflect you. And through that reflection, you either rise or retreat. This is not the love you see in movies. This is the sacred, spiritual, often messy process of real connection. A connection that rewrites your story. And in this video, we're going to explore what truly happens when destiny shows up, disguised as another human being. And once you walk through it, nothing is ever quite the same again. There's something strange about the people who are meant for us. They don't just enter our lives, they arrive, as if summoned by something greater. Long before they speak a word, you feel them. It's not attraction, it's not logic, it's gravity. We've all felt it at some point. That eerie pull towards someone we've never met before, like they're connected to us by an invisible thread stretching across time and space. And when you finally cross paths, it feels less like coincidence and more like choreography. Carl Jung believed that these moments aren't accidental. They're synchronicities, events aligned with your inner state, not your plans. When your soul is ripe for transformation, life aligns to bring you exactly what you need, even if it's disguised as chaos. And often, what you need isn't comfort, it's confrontation. Soulmates are often mistaken for ease, for compatibility, for the fairy tale version of romance we've been sold. But the truth is deeper and far more powerful. The person destined for you is not always the one who fits your checklist. They're the one who fits your evolution. Because real soul connection doesn't start with harmony. It begins with intensity, sometimes even discomfort. Why? Because the person meant for you doesn't mirror who you pretend to be. They reflect who you truly are and who you could become. And that's terrifying. They awaken questions you've avoided, feelings you've buried, dreams you forgot you had. They challenge your limits and expose your fears. But in that very process, they offer you something sacred, a chance to become whole. This invisible thread, this cosmic pull, is not bound by convenience or timing. It doesn't care if you're ready. It only responds to truth. And when the time comes, it tugs at your heart with such force, you can't ignore it. You can try to rationalize it. You can push it away. But deep down, your soul knows this person, this moment, is different. And here's the paradox. Sometimes that thread pulls you into chaos before clarity. The connection may trigger wounds before it heals them. But the beauty lies in its honesty. It doesn't pretend, it doesn't perform, it simply is. You begin to notice patterns, signs that echo across your path. Their presence feels familiar, like a déjà vu wrapped in warmth and wonder. They say things you've always needed to hear. They see parts of you no one else has ever noticed. You might find yourself resisting, because nothing about this feels safe in the traditional sense. But that's how you know it's real. Because truth has never been about safety, it's always been about freedom. And freedom requires exposure. It asks you to drop your defenses and see yourself, not as you wish to be, but as you already are. This person doesn't complete you. They reveal the parts of you that were waiting for permission to exist. And once you've met them, even if things don't last forever in the physical realm, something inside you has changed permanently. You've touched something sacred. You've remembered something eternal. And from that moment on, your soul can no longer pretend it doesn't know. There are moments in life that feel like someone flipped a switch. You meet a person, and suddenly the world is more vivid. Colors seem sharper. Music feels deeper. Your heart doesn't just beat, it remembers. This isn't infatuation, it's not a fantasy. It's awakening. When someone is truly meant for you, their presence activates something dormant inside you. a light you didn't realize had dimmed, a version of yourself you hadn't yet met. You feel it in the way they look at you, like they're reading pages you've kept hidden from the world. And somehow, they don't flinch. They see it all, and stay. It's terrifying and liberating, because in their presence, pretending is impossible. Masks dissolve, walls crack, and what remains is real. This is why some soulmate connections feel uncomfortable at first. They challenge the identity you've built to survive. They don't want who you've been. They want who you are. And that demand, that invitation can shake your entire foundation. You start questioning your beliefs, your patterns, your fears. Not because they criticize you, but because their existence reflects what you've outgrown. They mirror the parts of yourself you're ready to reclaim. Suddenly you notice how many of your past choices were based on fear, on trying to be accepted rather than being authentic. This person doesn't want your perfection. They want your presence, your truth, even the parts you were ashamed of. And slowly, something incredible happens. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop pretending you don't care. You stop hiding your brilliance. Because in their energy, you remember that you are not too much. You are just enough for the right soul. This is the essence of awakening. Not some grand epiphany, but the quiet unfolding of who you truly are. A soft but irreversible shift that says, I'm done performing, I'm ready to be seen. And it all started with a meeting that felt ordinary on the surface, but seismic underneath. These meetings don't happen often, and when they do, you can't unfeel them. They echo in your bones, they stretch your spirit. They rewire your sense of what's possible. You may try to explain it to others, but most won't understand, because this isn't logical. It's spiritual, it's soul memory reactivating, a divine echo from a forgotten promise. It's like your soul and theirs made an agreement long before you were born. When we meet again, we will awaken each other. And when that meeting happens, it stirs everything inside you. You remember your depth. You remember your purpose. You remember that you were never meant to live half asleep. They came not to fix you, but to remind you. To hold up a mirror so pure, so clear, that even your shadows feel safe enough to come home. That's the kind of presence that doesn't fade. Even if they're no longer by your side, the version of you they awakened will never go back to sleep. Because once you've been seen at that level, you can never again settle for being unseen. What most people don't realize is that the soulmate experience isn't all light and butterflies. It's also shadows, deep ones, the kind that live in silence and come alive in intimacy. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the part of you you've rejected, denied, or pushed into hiding. Not because it's evil, but because somewhere along the way you were told it wasn't acceptable, too emotional, too intense, too sensitive, too much. But here's the paradox. When someone is truly meant for you, they don't just bring out your light, they awaken your shadow, not to hurt you, but to help you heal. And healing isn't always pretty. When this person enters your life, you may feel triggered. You might find yourself reacting in ways you don't fully understand, emotions rising, fears resurfacing, walls crumbling. But that discomfort, that's the work. They aren't causing your pain. They're revealing what's already there, because real soul connections act like mirrors, not just reflecting who you are, but also who you've been afraid to become. They bring clarity to chaos. They highlight the stories you've been telling yourself for years. I'm unworthy, I'm too much, I'll be abandoned, I'll never be enough. These stories don't survive in the presence of a soulmate, but make no mistake, this part is uncomfortable, and many people run from it. They confuse intensity with toxicity. They label the person as too difficult or too triggering, when in truth, what's being triggered is a part of themselves they've never faced. True soulmates don't hurt you intentionally, but they'll hurt your illusions. They'll shatter the false identities you've clung to out of survival. You may lash out, withdraw, sabotage. Because the shadow hates being seen, it fights back. It wants to stay hidden, even though what it really needs is love. And this is where the transformation happens. When someone sees your shadow and doesn't flinch, doesn't leave, that's when healing begins. When they hold space for your anger, your sadness, your fear, without judgment, your nervous system learns a new story. I can be seen, I can be flawed, and still be loved. This is the gift of a true soulmate. They love not despite your shadow, but through it. They don't run from your darkness. They walk with you through it. And if you're willing, you begin to do the same. You stop hiding from yourself. You stop fearing your own depth. You realize that the parts of you you once called broken were just unheard. And it's in this hearing, in this seeing, that you reclaim your wholeness. Individuation, Jung said, is the process of becoming whole, not perfect, whole, which means integrating every part of you. The light, the shadow, the wounded, the wild. A soulmate shows you the path, but they don't walk it for you. You must choose to stay, to face the discomfort, to break your patterns, to release what no longer serves you. Because once your shadow is met with love, it transforms. What once scared you becomes sacred. What once held you back now sets you free. You'll begin to see conflict differently, not as something to avoid, but as a guide. Every tension becomes a teaching, every misunderstanding a mirror, every moment of pain a portal, and if both of you are willing to stay, to listen, to love deeper than comfort, then the connection becomes alchemical. You don't just grow, you transform. Two souls, reflecting and refining each other, burning away the false, making space for the true. You become each other's catalyst, not saviors, not fixers, mirrors. The relationship itself becomes a sacred container, not a fairy tale, but a fire. Not soft and easy, but honest and purifying. It's the kind of connection that doesn't just ask for love, it demands evolution. It forces you to confront everything you thought you knew about who you are, and rebuild piece by piece from truth. Because at the end of the shadow encounter is not destruction, it's liberation. The freedom to be whole, the courage to be real, the power to choose love, not just for someone else, but for every forgotten part of yourself. There's a moment, often quiet and unnoticed, when you stop looking at the other person and start seeing yourself, clearly, perhaps for the first time. This is where the true power of a soulmate connection begins, not in the comfort of being loved, but in the courage to become who you really are. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey of integrating your unconscious into consciousness, of becoming whole. Not what the world expects, not what your parents taught, but who you were always meant to be beneath the layers. And strangely, it's through another person that this becomes possible. Because when someone truly destined enters your life, they don't let you stay asleep. They don't let you hide in the roles you've outgrown. They see the cracks, and they don't try to fill them. They ask you to look inside and ask why the cracks were there in the first place. They are not your solution, they are your mirror. And through that mirror, you begin to realize how much of your identity was performance. The ways you adjusted, shrank, compromised, just to feel safe. You wore masks so well, you forgot you were even wearing them. But now this relationship invites you to strip them away. It's terrifying and it's beautiful. Because what emerges isn't perfection, it's truth. Your messy, radiant, raw truth. This is the heart of individuation, not a destination but a revelation, a peeling away of false selves, a return to essence. And it doesn't happen all at once. It happens in layers, in small moments, in arguments where you realize you're not fighting the other person, you're confronting your own pain. In silences where you meet the parts of you you've been avoiding, in love so steady, so unwavering, that your nervous system finally learns, I can exist fully, I don't have to hide. This is not romanticism, this is soul work, real, raw, undoing and rebuilding. The person who is destined for you won't complete you. They'll inspire you to complete yourself, to reclaim the dreams you buried, to forgive the parts you silenced, to stand in your truth, even if your voice shakes. And you'll begin to see them differently too, not as a fantasy or an ideal, but as a sacred companion walking their own path, doing their own integration. Their flaws won't scare you, their darkness won't repel you. Instead, you'll recognize it, because you've faced your own. You'll understand that growth doesn't require perfection, it requires honesty, presence, and a shared commitment to keep showing up, even when it's hard. The relationship becomes a sanctuary, not a place where you escape life, but where you meet it more fully. A space where your authenticity is not just accepted, it's invited. And as you keep showing up, you'll notice something strange. You're no longer looking for someone to save you. You're no longer afraid of being alone. You are finally at home with yourself. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of the self, the center of your total personality, the divine spark within you. And through the fire of authentic connection, that self begins to emerge. You're no longer ruled by your wounds. You're no longer defined by your fears. You are guided by something deeper, your essence. And from this place, love becomes sacred, not possession, not fantasy, but a divine mirror that reflects your wholeness back to you. True soulmates don't just support your transformation, They hold you accountable to it. They won't let you forget your power. They won't indulge your self-abandonment. They remind you of who you are when you've forgotten, and you do the same for them. That's the beauty of this kind of relationship. It's not one-sided. It's a mutual rising, a shared unfolding. You become witnesses and warriors in each other's evolution. There will be days where you fall back into fear, where you retreat into old patterns. But now, you have someone who sees you, who calls you forward without shame. They don't demand your light, they invite it. And in that invitation, something sacred is reborn. You remember that you are not here to please. You are here to be, to live, love, and lead from your truth. Not in spite of your past, but because of everything it taught you. That's individuation through relationship. Not easy, not flawless, but real. And real is what sets you free. Every soulmate connection comes with a choice. Stay comfortable or grow. The sacred challenge is this. Once you've been awakened, you can't go back to sleep. You can't pretend you're unaware. You can't unsee what you've seen. This person, this connection, doesn't just shift your heart. It shifts your life. You start craving depth. You begin noticing what no longer aligns. You question things you once accepted. You become painfully honest with yourself. And honesty isn't always easy, because it demands sacrifice. You may have to let go of old habits, old versions of you, old relationships built on who you used to be. And that's terrifying, because letting go feels like loss. But in truth, it's making space. Space for the version of you that has been waiting to rise. The sacred challenge is not about finding someone who loves the polished parts of you. It's about standing in the mirror of someone who sees your whole soul, scars and all, and choosing to love yourself enough to rise. You'll feel resistance. You'll be tempted to run. Growth never happens without friction. But what makes this challenge sacred is that it's guided by love, not fear, not pressure, but love that says, you are more than who you've been pretending to be. And here's the deeper truth. They can't walk the path for you. They can walk beside you. But it's you who must take the steps. You who must choose discomfort over illusion. You who must break free. This love doesn't come to save you. It comes to remind you, you were never broken to begin with. And if you accept the challenge, if you stay, if you surrender, you don't just become someone better. You become someone truer. This is the turning point, the test, the fire before the freedom. Will you choose safety, or will you choose transformation? Because the people destined for us won't let us play small. They will love us enough to challenge us. And that challenge is the sacred doorway to everything we came here to become. When someone truly destined enters your life, it doesn't feel like the beginning of a love story. It feels like the beginning of a new you. Everything that was unclear begins to take shape. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because your soul recognizes purpose in the pain, the missed connections, the failed relationships, the questions that haunted you. They weren't wrong turns, they were preparation. Destiny doesn't arrive in perfect timing, it arrives in perfect truth. Sometimes disguised as disruption, sometimes hidden behind challenge, but always carrying the same invitation, to become whole, to stop running from yourself, to finally live in alignment. The person meant for you won't just be a partner, they'll be a portal to your deepest fears and your highest self. And when that connection happens, it doesn't just change how you love, it changes how you live. You begin to move differently, speak differently, choose differently. Not because you've become someone new, but because you've finally come home to who you've always been. So if you felt that pull, if you've crossed paths with someone who cracked you open, if you're standing in the middle of that sacred challenge right now, don't turn away. Lean in, because this isn't just about romance, it's about awakening. And your awakening is the greatest gift you'll ever give yourself. If this message spoke to you, don't stop here. There's more waiting for you, more stories, more truths, more reminders that you're not alone. Check out our next video to keep growing, healing, and reconnecting with your authentic self. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell, so you never miss what your soul is ready to hear next. You're on the path now. Let's walk it together.